I hate to say it because I really like Quinn as a character, but it feels like she was brought on primarily to be a red herring or a decoy. Here's what I mean. So at the beginning of season 7, we find out that Barney is going to get married, but we don't know the bride. So the rest of the season, it seems like the show is setting up a second mystery, much like what they did with Ted and the mother. We want to know who the mother is, and we want to know who the bride is. But first, let me start from the beginning. We first meet Quinn in the episode The Drunk Train, and Ted is trying to chat up a girl, and he asks Barney to be the wingman, and Barney is like, okay. So he starts talking to Quinn, and at first, Quinn is completely buying his completely absurd, ridiculous lie.
Wow, you have enormous penis syndrome? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's the problem with EPS, lack of awareness.
She's playing along with him, and then we find out that she knows that he's full of shit, and she calls him out on it.
I should mention my condition. It's called I'm not a gullible dumbass disorder.
And instead of giving up, Barney still tries to make conversation, but she ignores him, she judges him, she reads him to filth, she says that he can't love anything, and we find out that Quinn has gotten into Barney's head, he can't stop thinking about her.
It's gonna be epic, wait for it, dairy. Wait, no, that's not it. How do I usually say it? I hate this Quinn girl.
He's not functioning properly, and when Ted and Barney are on the drunk train, Barney starts to reject other women. So he's not interested in other women, which is what we've seen before. So far we have two very slight parallels to Nora. The first thing is that both Nora and Quinn are aware of the fact that Barney is lying, and I think that Barney likes this aspect. When a woman doesn't fall for his plays, that creates a challenge for him, and we see that in both the way that Nora responded and the way that Quinn responded. And the second thing is we notice that when Barney really likes somebody, he kind of doesn't care about other women, and so even though he has a chance with other women, he doesn't take it because his mind is preoccupied. Also, side note, Rachel Bloom is on the drunk train. It took me like 50 rewatches to finally notice her, but she's on the drunk train. So if anyone has ever seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, that's Rachel Bloom.
You think you're better than me?
Anyway, towards the end of the episode, we find out that Quinn and Barney slept together, and then we find out that Quinn has been complaining about Barney to her friend or coworker, so it's kind of indicated that Quinn might sort of like Barney at the same time as well. It seems like Barney got into her head, and most importantly, we find out that Quinn is a stripper by the name of Karma, and she works at the Lusty Leopard, which is the strip club that Barney frequents. We don't see Quinn the next episode, but we do get a conversation between Ted and Barney, and the conversation is about Robin. Ted is interested in Robin again, and Barney gives Ted his green light. So basically, Barney gives Ted his approval to go for Robin, and he says that he knows that Robin rejected him, and he wants Robin and Ted to move on. So it's kind of a sign that Barney's also ready to move on. In the episode Karma, Barney finds out that Quinn is a stripper, and he thinks about whether or not he should ask her out because she's a stripper, but then he decides that he really likes her and it's worth a chance. So he goes to the strip club and he asks her out. And here we see that Barney is actually very vulnerable and open. He asks her very openly and honestly, and it's actually a rare moment for Barney that we get to see this side of him and him interacting with a woman this way. And in response, Quinn says, listen, I can't really be talking to you right now. I'm supposed to be working. So Barney starts buying lap dances, and he keeps buying them, and she still refuses to give him an answer. At the end of it, we find out that Barney spent about $800 to $900 that night, and he also gave her his Rolex. Ted kind of knocks some sense into Barney, and he says, listen, she's scamming you. And then Barney says that, well, she gave me a date, and the date is supposed to be at the strip club. And Ted is like, this is not really a date. She's just getting you to come back and spend more money at a strip club. So then Barney comes back, and he's like, look, can we have a date somewhere else? And she's like, of course.
I was hoping you would ask that. I'm sorry it's so expensive in here, but it's nice and private, huh?
Then Barney sees that she's pulling the same lines on another customer, and he calls her out, and he says, why are you doing this? And then Quinn almost scams him again. He almost falls for it, and then he gets really upset, and then we get this speech.
Did I deserve this? Absolutely. I probably deserved everything you did to me and more, but I have been trying, and trying hard, to be a better person. Thanks for showing me I had it right before.
All right, and I think that this speech is very, very interesting. It feels like the way that Barney is acting, or the way that NPH is acting in the scene, that we're supposed to kind of side with Barney and be upset with Quinn, but his lines don't feel genuine and true, and it feels like he is acting very bitter and taking out all the blame on somebody else. So yes, he acknowledges the fact that he has been atrocious, and he acknowledges the fact that he deserved it, and he even says that he deserves worse. But despite all of that, it feels like the final message is, well, you made me do it. You made me a monster. Rather than take accountability, I'm gonna then at the end of it put blame on you and keep doing what I keep doing. And he says that he's been trying really hard to be a better person, and the question is, since when? Is it through asking Quinn out? Because we find out when he broke up with Nora, or after that breakup, which first of all, he cheated on her, and then after they broke up, Barney went back to his old ways. He went back to using his lines. He went back to trying to hit on women who were drunk, trying to take advantage of people. He went back to all of that after Nora. And then when he was trying to pick up Quinn, he was still using his absurd, ridiculous lies. So when was he trying to be a better person? Was it since the moment he asked her out? But what he really did was what any decent human being would do, which is just try to ask someone out genuinely and honestly. But that's not really trying hard to be a better person. I don't think a person deserves a medal for that. So just asking Quinn out in a genuine way is not enough to demonstrate the fact that he's trying hard to be a better person. He hasn't really made amends. And on this point, there's a comment from Leora Waltouch that I want to quote that kind of captures the issue with this particular scenario. Quinn teaches him that his behavior is wrong. He can then see that Quinn treating his openness how he has treated women in the past is not a sign that love is for suckers and vulnerability is stupid, and that these women deserve it, such as Shannon, but that these women were real people who put themselves out there because they wanted the same things that he wants deep down, and that he made them feel how Quinn made him feel. Not good, used, manipulated, taken advantage of, etc. This is what could get him to look back on his behavior and genuinely see that he was in the wrong. Instead of trying to treat people better, he wants to perpetuate this cycle of hurting others and perpetuating this idea of lying and scamming. And then at the end of the episode, Barney runs into Quinn at a coffee shop, and she ends up buying him a coffee, and then she asks whether or not he wants to sit down and chat for a bit. And what I find interesting about this scene is that, first of all, we find out that Quinn has actually been listening to him and all of his stories, which kind of goes to show the fact that Quinn does kind of like him. And so we did see 2 instances from Quinn that indicate the fact that he's not just another guy to her. And then there's another line that gets me, which is where Barney says,
Almost every woman I've ever met was wrong to give me a chance. You're the first woman who's wrong not to.
Okay, but why? Why is Quinn wrong not to give him a chance? Because he's changed? Or because she is the kind of person who should be with him? I guess it's not clear as to why Barney feels like Quinn should be giving him a chance. I guess why is he deserving, or why is it that Quinn is right for him? And so, yeah, I feel like that line comes out really strong, but when you think about it, it's just unclear as to what he's trying to say here. In the next episode, we find out that Barney and Quinn have been spending a lot of time together, and Ted narrates the fact that Barney just disappeared for a couple of weeks, and it looks like they just shacked up together, and Barney really wants to introduce Quinn to his friends, but he says that, hey, listen, my friends are really nosy, so Quinn decides that they should mess with them, and she comes up with this entire plan where she's gonna pretend to be controlling, and that Barney's gonna pretend to be a doormat, and Quinn adds another layer by being like, hey, why don't we also make Robin and Ted fight over my apartment? So Quinn orchestrates this whole thing. And then we see that the whole gang falls for it. So they become concerned that Barney is with a really terrible woman, and they know that she has scammed him in the past. So they hold a Quintervention. And at the Quintervention, we see that Quinn and Barney stage a fight, and they do a great job with it. And then at the very end, they find out, hey, listen, we were lying to you guys, and this is a lesson for you guys not to meddle in my business, not to be nosy in my personal life. And okay, so I feel like the gang was not in the wrong here. So I don't really feel like they were doing anything terrible. The one thing that's bad is the fact that they found the tickets that Quinn bought. So they find out that Quinn bought first-class tickets to Hawaii, 4-star hotel, super expensive. They think that it was Barney who bought it, and they're worried that he's spending a lot of money, but in fact it was Quinn, which goes to show that Quinn really cares for Barney. And it kind of goes to show that she's kind of paying back all the money that she scammed him out of. Although I'm not sure about the Rolex. The Rolex is like $7,000, but at the cheapest end. So I figure that probably she gave it back. So it does seem like she's giving everything back to him, and that she really likes him. And from the gang's perspective, it feels like they are doing what a good group of friends would do. They're concerned because they are seeing red flags. So first, they already know that Quinn scammed him out of a lot of money. And then they see the fact that Quinn is showing signs, the fact that she's very controlling, that she's not very nice, and that she's not treating Barney right. So naturally, they would say something. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with having an intervention for that type of a situation. They were not really meddling. They did find those tickets, but besides that, they were being good friends. And then at the very end, Barney expresses the fact that he doesn't like that Quinn is stripping, and he asks would she ever quit, and she says that she would if she got married, which is a red herring statement. So again, we are looking for the bride of Barney. And here we find that Quinn is saying that she would stop stripping if she got married. So it kind of leads us to believe that perhaps it's going to be Quinn. And also at the end of it, we find that Quinn and Barney decide to move in together. So in the next episode, we see that Quinn and Barney are living together and Barney's having a really hard time. So Quinn got rid of all her stuff. She sold everything because she knows that Barney likes his place the way it is and she doesn't want to ruin it. She wants to be with him. And the only thing that she wants to keep are her mugs. And she asks him, can I keep my mugs here? And Barney's like,
No.
And this is kind of reminiscent of Ted and Robin. So back in season 2, when Ted moves in with Robin, all he had were his lids. And he just wanted to have his lids somewhere in the cupboard, somewhere in Robin's apartment. And Robin was just adamantly against it. She didn't want any of his stuff at her place because she liked her place the way it is. So we see that Barney and Robin are similar in that sense where they're not ready to compromise. They're not ready to open themselves up. And Robin also points this out. So Robin makes a joke when Barney's talking about this issue.
That's why I've never thrown anything out for any relationship ever. Isn't that right, honey? Oh, that's right. I'm alone.
And the other interesting thing is that this is the episode where they have those flash forwards of watching Star Wars. And we see that in a flashback, when Barney was hooking up with Robin, he still was picturing himself with other women at that time. So he imagined that 3 years from now, he would just have another random woman on his arm and he would just go through them. But this time around, when the gang is like, oh, you're gonna have the same thing, he says, no, I don't want this. I want Quinn. I want to have this relationship. And that's why he realizes that he should compromise. And at the very end of the episode, we see that Barney goes home and he starts smashing mugs to show Quinn that he is committed and that he's ready to compromise. In the next 2 episodes, we see that Barney's having a really hard time with Quinn being a stripper. In one episode, we see that he tries to make every night legendary because he can't handle the fact that she's out at night working, and so he needs to distract himself. And then in another episode, he tries to get Quinn a job because he doesn't like the fact that she's stripping. And in both scenarios, we see that Quinn is adamant about the fact that she likes her job. She doesn't want to quit, and she wants to keep doing what she's doing because she enjoys it. And then at the end of the season, Barney's very worried about his situation with Quinn because he left to go to Atlantic City, and he left when he and Quinn had a fight. So when he comes home, he's so happy to see her, even though she redecorated his entire apartment.
I hired a decorator and I asked him, what would the inside of Tinkerbell's vagina look like? And the kid just ran with it.
So here we see that Barney is really, really into Quinn. Then they have their trip to Hawaii, and on the way to Hawaii, Barney proposes. But before he proposes, we find out that Quinn had already quit her job as a stripper. She was going to surprise him. Then we find out that Barney is going to marry Robin. So now the mystery is solved, which is kind of a shame. I feel like they did it too quick because now we have this dying relationship in front of us that we have to address. We have another 2 episodes with Quinn. So anyway, Quinn and Barney are engaged. They announce to everybody that they're engaged, and there's an aside with Robin where Barney is like, hey, there's still a chance to run away together. He's making a joke, but here we see that this is the sign that Barney is going to be with Robin. And then in the next episode, the prenup, Barney creates a prenup for Quinn, and it's ridiculous. So of course he's being kind of pushed by Arthur Hobbs, who's giving him all these ideas, but the terms are completely unreasonable.
I have to pay $2,000 every time I gain a pound?
Not every time. Just if it shows up at the weekly weigh-in.
So basically, these are just rules for how to behave, and Barney also includes the fact that he's going to have wives 2 through 8. Quinn is naturally very upset by this, and she teams up with the rest of the women, and they then storm, they band together. And then Quinn creates her own prenup, and the prenup is also kind of ridiculous. And then at the end of everything, they both look at their prenups and they realize the fact that they don't trust each other. So they throw it out and they realize they can't really be together because they don't trust each other. A very unceremonious ending. And I feel like it had so much potential, but not important. And then at the end of the season, we see Quinn again when she's pranking Barney for his bachelor party. So Robin asks Quinn if she can play along and trick Barney, and Quinn is all for it. When I looked on Reddit for opinions on Quinn, specifically why some people don't like Quinn, most of the answers were the fact that she wasn't Robin. And these are comments going back 13, 14 years. So people who were watching the show at the time really felt like Quinn was just thrown in there to just stall, to add more time. Because again, the focus of the season really seemed to be finding out who Barney is going to marry. And it really felt like people wanted Barney and Robin together. So during this period of time, when Quinn was at it, people were just annoyed because previously we saw that Barney and Robin cheated with each other, so it kind of gave the impression that they're supposed to be endgame. And then here we have this Quinn woman. And in the episode after Barney meets Quinn and before he sees her again, we get Robin and Ted again. So we have the moment where Ted tells Robin that he loves her. And based on the audience response or the comments from Reddit, it really feels like people are just annoyed at that point, that it feels like, okay, well, you guys are trying to get Barney and Robin together, and then here we have this random episode with Ted again, and people don't want to see it, or they were over it at this point. Of course, hindsight is 2020 and things look very different now, but at this period of time, it really felt like the vibe or the tone from people was the fact that they were ready for Barney and Robin, and they just felt like adding Ted in there was adding more time, similar to how Quinn was added. And to be fair, Quinn is not a perfect character, so I think it's fair if some people don't like Quinn. I mean, she is also a scammer like Barney. She scammed Barney, and even though we kind of might laugh at the fact that she's scamming Barney because Barney deserves it, we see that she does it to other people, and we don't know if the other people deserve it. So are they people like Barney, and is she karma for other people? Or is it a situation where she's just a scammer? And also, Quinn was willing to lie and do a prank on Barney's friends even though she doesn't know them. So I think there are valid reasons for why some people might not like Quinn because of her character traits. But I liked Quinn. I feel like she was a lot of fun, she felt quite dynamic, and we see that Quinn got along with the rest of the group, specifically Lily and Robin. So she bonded with the women. There's an episode where Lily goes to talk to Quinn because she needs advice and she wants to talk about pregnancy, and Quinn is there to give advice. So we could see that they're able to click together. And then in the episode with the prenup, we see really that Quinn really bonds with everybody else and they seem to work well together. And then at the end of the season, we see that Robin and Quinn get along just fine. So Quinn has no bad feelings towards Robin for the fact that she's marrying Barney. They're able to stage a whole fight together. So there's a comfort there with each other that's we see very briefly, but it's kind of cool and it works. And specifically when we look at the episode The Prenup, we see that Quinn gets along better with Robin and Lily than Victoria does. And to be honest, I don't think we see any other girlfriend that bonds with the women of the main group as much as Quinn does. And I have to say, for all her flaws, I feel like Quinn is presented as someone who is willing to change and willing to compromise. So first, we see that Quinn demonstrates genuine remorse and she feels guilty for how she treated Barney. And because she feels so bad, she does buy him coffee, she asks him out, they start dating. And then she buys him a very expensive trip to Hawaii, which goes to show the fact that she's not karma at the end of the day. She's not his karma because he got to go out with her and she pretty much gave all his money back. So that episode, she ends up being not karma for Barney specifically because he gets his way. And we see that she accommodates and compromises a lot. She's the one who moves in with Barney and she's willing to throw out all her stuff to sell it to get rid of it and only keep her mugs. So she's willing to sacrifice a lot. And she quit her stripper job, which we know Barney cared a lot about and which we know that Quinn cared about. So she liked her job and she enjoyed it and she made it very clear that she doesn't want to quit. But for Barney, she quit that job even before he proposed. Even though her rule was the fact that she would wait until she's married, but she didn't wait for that for Barney. She was willing to change. So here we have a woman who is willing to move in with a guy, get rid of all her stuff, quit a job that she loves, and keep willing to change and to compromise. And when we look at why they broke up, it was Barney who first brought up the prenup. He's the one who gave a prenup that wasn't just a regular prenup, but a prenup that was ridiculous, just absurd with rules that show that he's not ready to compromise. And it's because of that that Quinn developed her own prenup. So I kind of see Quinn's perspective here because she has already been compromising for him a lot and pretty much the only thing that he gave her is mugs. And here we have a situation where he's showing to her that he should not be trusted because he gives her a prenup that is absurd. And the only way that she can naturally respond is to give a prenup that's also absurd, or otherwise to leave him, which is what ends up happening. So I really think that Quinn naturally could not possibly trust Barney after all of that. So this brings up the question, why couldn't they change for each other? Why couldn't they grow together? Which I think is a possibility. And I feel like that prenup episode feels kind of rushed because we did see both of them try to accommodate and try to change. So it's established that they like each other a lot and that they show signs that they're willing to change and to compromise. And I guess this made me think about the show You, if anyone has seen it, mild spoilers. It's kind of like Joe and Love, you know, two people who need to change and who are kind of the same, and they kind of have to keep each other accountable, but it doesn't work out because they don't trust each other. I personally think that it could have happened. I mean, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. If you see someone else's behavior, then perhaps you can learn from that behavior and you could both try to push each other to be better people. So I don't know, I feel like Quinn could have been an interesting addition to Barney and to the group as a whole. And I feel like Quinn could have been really, really valuable for Barney's growth. She could have been his karma, which is not really how it played out on the show, even though the episode is called Karma. But I feel like Barney could have changed as a result of Quinn, but I feel like the show kind of backtracked with respect to that. We did get some insight into Barney's character. So first of all, we find out that he's willing and ready and excited to get married, that he wants to spend the rest of his life with someone. And we did see that he had a commitment to Nora, but here with Quinn, we see that he's ready to live with somebody and he's willing to get married. And we get to find out that he actually doesn't care if this is a flawed woman, right? So like with Nora, she was absolutely perfect. I mean, she's such a perfect character that we could see anybody wanting to marry her. But here we have Quinn, who is a lot of fun and is still gorgeous and funny and interesting, but also is a stripper, which Barney doesn't like. And she's flawed in the fact that she also scams people, but Barney doesn't care about that. So he's willing to accept flaws in a person. He's not looking for a perfect woman. He's just looking for someone that he likes. And if he finds someone that he likes and he's compatible with, he's ready to get married and to commit. I mean, I feel like she did bring up some aspects in Barney's character, but I feel like it just wasn't enough. And she wasn't utilized to her full potential, which is kind of a shame. And I feel like the actress was great for this role. So it is what it is, but I would love to hear your thoughts. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching.